Brhad. Let's go to Arthapati. Arthapati. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paschatya Desatarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. There were two points that came up in yesterday's reading that I felt I needed to research, and I can report to you my findings. In the purport of the last verse, which was text 179, there's the word artapati. 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 I had heard it before. Here's what it means. Artapati is a rule, a Vedic rule, of how to correctly understand and reconcile apparent contradictions, like he has no form, he has form, he walks, he doesn't walk, etc. Are they self-contradictory? No. Here's a verse from Sri Patara Upanishad, Apani Pado Janavo Grahita. God has no eyes, but he sees. So how is this contradiction to be reconciled? So there's a method, or a pramana, called artapati. Artapati. This is from a BTG article long ago, 2012. Postulation, used for reconciling contradictory statements by postulating a third statement. So it's in addition to Pratyaksha, Anumana, and Shabda. Jiva Goswami in his Sarva Sambhadani gives 7 other ways besides those 3. Artapati is one. Here's how it works. Here's 2 inconsistent statements. Ravi does not eat food during the day. 2. Ravi is growing fat. So Artapati reconciles these 2 statements. Ravi eats at night. Similarly, the Artapati to reconcile the statements about God having and not having form is God has no material form, but has a spiritual form. Same applies to Nirguna, Saguna, etc. There's another reference. It's pretty clear, but I'll give you this additional reference. I hope. Yeah. This is from Bhaktivinoda's Jaiva Dharma. He calls Artapati as derivative knowledge. Derivative knowledge. Derivative knowledge. And the example that we read yesterday, I'll just read. Like gems, mantras, and so on, all things in this world, this is Sridhar Swami's commentary, all things of this world have energies that can be understood only by, quote, inconceivable knowledge, unquote. This is the kind of knowledge one can acquire not by speculative reasoning, but only by confronting tangible evidence one cannot explain otherwise. To put things another way, these energies are inconceivable in that one can understand them not by analyzing them in terms of how, for example, they differ or don't differ, but through arthapati, presuming what is required to make sense of the known facts. Therefore, just as fire has the power to burn, the absolute truth, Sri Vishnu, has inconceivable energies, his innate existential potencies, which are the causes of creation, and so on. So here's another source, arthapati. Arthapati, or assumption, due to the presence of known facts. A perception that is clear functions as an indicator of another that is unclear. One piece of information acts as a catalyst for another. For example, if we see a peacock feather, we may think of Krishna. If we observe that animals eat, sleep, reproduce, and defend, just like humans, then we can assume that, just like us, they also have souls. It's an assumption. Not a proof, but it's an assumption. It's a type of pramana. So how did we get there? There's this reference of yesterday's text to explain the potencies of the personality of Godhead. That's what this section is doing. Starting with Krishna has different manifestations. His potencies have different manifestations. Lakshmi has different manifestations. Then we'll read the verse for text 179. She has so many expansions, who are named in terms of the various manifestations they produce. Maya, who comprises the material modes, appears as her shadow. So that's where this arthapati phrase came. And another quick dictionary check on what does delimit mean. Delimit means making a boundary of something. I mean, I don't know anything about fishing, but the example in Oxford Dictionary is this line delimits the fishing territory. I don't know what that means, but supposing it's arbitrary, it can change from time to time apparently, but something delimits when this is the boundary of that something. And on the other side of that boundary is something else. That's what delimiting means. So we may run across it again. I didn't go back, and we heard it twice yesterday morning. But that's what the meaning is. A boundary that demarks or denotes a line between one thing and another thing. Text 180. This Maya is the generator of the false material creation. She embodies falsity and ignorance, and therefore she cannot be described. non-eternal, yet primordial, she creates for the jivas the cycle of material life. I mean, that's like a heavy statement, isn't it? And it's not a really long purport. I would expect a long purport for something like that. Commentary, text 180 through 182. This is 180. Define Maya in terms of her identity and effects, kind of like a functional definition. The created world of illusion consists of visible products and their causes, and Maya is the mother of all of them. She produces the illusion of material existence, the relative knowledge, ignorance, bondage, and liberation that make up the darkness of the conditioned souls who are removed from knowledge of reality. Thus, she causes the jiva's cycle of birth and death by expanding the force of delusion. Because what she creates is illusory, her actual character cannot be identified. And because her influence over an individual soul ends when that soul achieves true knowledge, and she is said to be non-eternal. But, in truth, she is beginningless because she is the shadow of the spiritual energy of the Supreme. Got it? Maya is non-eternal in the sense that the illusory influence comes and goes. Maya is non-eternal because of the illusory influence that she expands or covers living entities with, comes and it goes. The deluding influence comes and goes, but she is eternal or primordial. She's non-eternal and primordial. That's the language used here. As the shadow of the spiritual energy of the Supreme. 181, again, defining Maya in terms of her identity and effects. 181, appearing in person, she presides over the 8th covering of the universe. What's that? There's 7 coverings. Because the transformations of material creation do not affect her, she is called Prakriti. Short purport, should be long ones. Matter is always in flux, changing from one state to another, but because Maya is the superintendent of this continuous transformation of matter, she herself is never subject to change. Thus she is called Prakriti, the primal force of material existence, the unchanging intrinsic basis of Vikriti, or that which changes. In short, the cause of change is unchangeable. Therefore, when Gopakumar visited Maya in her abode within the 8th covering of the universe, she referred to herself as non-different from the spiritual energy of the Lord, of whom she is a separated expansion. Ooh. So this is now making reference to 2:3:28. So when Gopakumar was passing through Mahakalapur, that's the 8th covering, although it's only 7. So the verse translation 2:3:28, or if you want devotion to Vishnu, still you should be kind and worship me, the giver of devotion, for I am his maidservant, his sister, and the embodiment of his energy. Thank you for explaining it in the next chapter, because it was a little, I remember reading that, it was very confusing. 182. Only by transcending her does one attain liberation and devotional service. She has produced the material universe, a creation no more real than a magician's trick. Commentary. As a magician conjures up one illusion after another, Maya has countless ways to create false appearances. That's it for the commentary of those 3 verses. 183. But whatever that energy creates appears substantial and real, just like the things that ascetics like Kardama create from their austerities, mystic yoga, and other attainments. Commentary. The Lord's energies, both spiritual and material, are his personal creative potencies. Whatever is produced by the Lord's own Shakti is real and substantial, in the sense that such creation lasts for some time. Even finite souls like Kardama and Sobari were able to create wonders that were substantial and real, like Kardama's flying palace, which could travel anywhere he desired. Certain inert objects in the material world, such as potent gems and mantras, also have such creative power. Paragraph. Magicians are expert in producing illusions. They know how to bewilder people, yet their magical creations are unreal, because those creations cannot be used for any practical purpose, cannot act in any real way, and after a moment they cease to exist. In contrast to such useless illusions, adept ascetics and yogis are able to create things that anyone can see are substantial and real. The creators of such things enjoy their creations as they like, and the objects created may last for thousands of years. Shoo-wee. 184. Lord Krishna alone is the bestower of the fruits of all auspicious work. His lotus feet are worshipped by the masters of yoga. Whatever his personal energy creates is eternal and real and beyond illusion, just as he is. Commentary. Since even jivas have the power to create substantial realities, whatever the Supreme Lord's ubiquitous energy, everywhere present, creates, is by definition even more substantial and real. Performers of austerities and pious works achieve wonderful results from their endeavors, but is it on? I don't think it's on. I mean, see if it's being broadcast. They can hear. Okay, fantastic. That's all that matters. Performers of austerities and pious works achieve wonderful results from their endeavors, but it is the Supreme Lord Krishna alone who provides those results. 185. The incarnations of Sri Krishna, the original personality of Godhead, are likewise not different from him, their source. Just as he is eternal and real, So are they. Commentary. Now Narada's coming to the main point. Great. Sri Krishna Dev is greater than all other forms of the Supreme Lord. Krishna is to Bhagavan Swayam. Krishna is the original personality of Godhead. To prepare Gopakumar for this point, Narada sums up what he has said thus far by saying that all the avatars of Godhead are similar to Krishna because they all share in his qualities of being Nitya, or eternal, and Satya, real. Thus, all the forms of Godhead, like Badrinath and Lord Vaikuntanath, are non-different from Lord Gokulanath, Golokanath. 186. Krishna alone is the source of all the incarnations of Godhead by his infinity, in infinitely various excellences. Distinct from those of everyone else, he is always supreme. Those excellences are known by the term Bhaga. Commentary. The plenary expansions of God are all non-different, but Sri Krishna, being the source of the others, is supreme. Narada calls Krishna the Samasti Rupa. Samasti Rupa. Samasti Rupa, word for word, says combined form. Samasti Rupa. Which means that Krishna's form subtly embodies all other forms of the Godhead. Only Krishna, the Lord of Goloka, is completely endowed with the special excellences of the Supreme Lord, all of them rare, unlimited, infinite, beyond the power to describe, and not found the same way in anyone else. Those excellences are identified in Vishnu Purana by Parashara Rishi. And we all know this one. Aishvaryasya samagrasya viryasya yashashashriya jnana vairagya yos chaiva sanam bhaga itin gana. And the 6. Complete sovereignty, prowess, beauty, fame, knowledge, and renunciation. These 6 are called bhaga, opulences. That's it. 187. And, here we go. Krishna is different from Narayana. For when Krishna appears in his descent in the material world, he fully manifests the many unique glories that distinguish Krishna alone, charming, attractive glories that can be known only to hearts softened by prema bhakti. Commentary. Some may raise the doubt that since Narayana, the Lord of Vaikuntha, is also described in Vedic scriptures as the avatari, or source of all incarnations, how can Sri Krishna be greater than Narayana? Narada replies in this verse, Krishna is the all-victorious Supreme Personality of Godhead, greater than everyone, including the Lord of Vaikuntha. When Krishna descends to the material world, he reveals especially sweet qualities that attract the hearts of everyone. Paragraph. What kind of qualities distinguish Sri Krishna as greater than all avatars, even the avatari Narayana? To understand this topic properly, one needs a heart softened by pure love for Krishna. But even without that requirement, one can consider that most forms of Godhead, like the Narayana of Badrikashram, are only avatars, whereas the Supreme Controller, Sri Narayana, the Lord of Vaikuntha, is not an avatar, but the avatari. Krishna, however, is both the avatari and avatar. Thus, Krishna displays in his role as avatar the sweetness of his varied pastimes, and as his role as the avatari, the supreme status of the absolute controller. Therefore, Krishna is the greater form of God. Shoo. Got it? It's an interesting argument. I've never heard, I don't recall reading that before. Interesting. Text 187, have to remember that. Next paragraph. The special glories of Krishna will be further discussed in later chapters of Sri Brhad Bhagavatamrita. Even the pastimes of Krishna in which he defeats and kills evil persons are sweeter and more charming than anyone can describe or can infer by logic, because each enemy Krishna kills receives Krishna's complete mercy. Moreover, the ways that Krishna defeats and kills demons is supremely attractive. What to speak of the ways Krishna reciprocates kindly with the surrendered devotees. With all of them, he reciprocates according to their rasa, sharing meals with them, relaxing with them, playing his flute for their pleasure, dancing with them in the rasa lila, and so on. This will be described more fully later on. (188) Still, the servants of the Lord's incarnations achieve the greatest happiness in the loving services they prefer, each according to their own mood. Commentary. Since Sri Krishna Dev is the boundless ocean of all super excellent glories, why doesn't every devotee serve him and him alone to obtain the highest possible happiness? The answer is that every Vaishnava, no matter what form of Vishnu he worships, achieves a special individual happiness suited exactly to his own attitude, and this completely fulfills his heart's desires. All the Supreme Lord's pure servants know such perfect satisfaction, for they all attain the ultimate limit of happiness available in their own rasas. 189. According to the way one worships, the Lord awards different results. One who thus reaches the goal he has pursued never feels discontent. Gopal Kumar's feeling discontent, but he hasn't reached the goal. Commentary. The personality of Godhead knows everything there is to know. He is also the most merciful giver of charity. Why then doesn't he give the same supreme happiness to all his devotees? It is because he gives them, what he gives them depends on their expressed desires. Then, aren't the devotees dissatisfied who receive happiness that is relatively less? No. When the Supreme Lord reciprocates the love of any of his pure devotees, the devotee is never left feeling incomplete, because everything the devotee wanted, the Lord provides. The hearing that can easily take the, materially motivated or selfishly motivated worshiper and go, well, I'm going over there. (190) The Lord's pastimes expand in unlimited variety. His mind is deeper than millions of oceans. The opulence of his diverse pastimes attracts his devotees to him in so many ways. Who can understand him by speculation? Commentary. But what doesn't the Lord bestow to the very why doesn't the Lord bestow the very best method of worship upon all his devotees? After all, he is Rishikesh, the master of the senses, who inspires all the energies of knowledge and activity. It's kind of asking the same question in each of the commentaries. Why isn't homogenized? Paragraph. If he wanted to bestow the very best method, he could, but he chooses instead to respond to the individual's taste, the individual taste of each devotee for a particular loving service. This variety of reciprocation with many different devotees is his Leela and his special greatness. How can anyone presume to understand why he acts as he does? We can understand only this much, : were he not to expand varieties of pastimes with various devotees, the charm of his variegated enjoyment would not be complete. Now, the sound is being broadcast to the listeners, but it's not happening in the room. Could you check the speaker? Maybe that needs to be adjusted or something turned on, or some dial in the back or something. 191. Okay, now we're on. Before we weren't. 191. Even amid such diversity, the Lord's mercy achieves its highest perfection, for despite the hierarchy of greater and lesser devotees, none are affected by envy or by any such bad feelings toward others. Each devotee, following his own nature, attains the final limit of happiness in the service that suits his own taste. It's very nice understanding. Commentary: the Supreme Lord does not behave the same with each devotee, with every devotee. That the Supreme Lord does not behave the same with every devotee does not invalidate the glory of his boundless compassion. Rather, his discriminating dealings with his servants enhance his reputation, because every devotee relishes the highest possible happiness by the nature of devotional service. None of the Lord's servants ever become dissatisfied. On the heavenly planets and elsewhere in the material world, inequality always leads to conflict and envy. But not so in the dealings between the Supreme Lord and his devotees. Rivalry, jealousy, and other undesirable emotions never interfere with their happiness. Now, there's transcendental rivalry and transcendental this and that, but it doesn't interfere with their happiness. That's this Arthapati. Devotees on the path of pure devotional service are protected from these inauspicious influences, including false pride and malice towards others, Vaishnavas are naturally friendly to one another. Free from envy, they can peacefully pursue their real self-interests, which isn't true on the material plane. Text 192. Because the Lord's pure devotees are absorbed in their true identity of eternity, knowledge, and bliss, they do not accept inferior happiness as great, nor do they get involved with the petty pleasures of materialists or of sannyasis with impersonalist views. Commentary. Ordinary people may, by ignorance, consider meager pleasure to be great, but Vaishnavas are not fooled, because materialists entrapped in the cycle of birth and death are motivated by urges for sense gratification. Such materialists consider the stimulation of sensory contact to be real happiness. Similarly, impersonalists, renunciates, cultivating knowledge of their spiritual identity, hope to find real happiness in liberation. In most cases, however, the impersonalist sannyasis do not reach even the petty happiness for which they aspire. The cause of frustration for both the materialist and the impersonalist is their failure to realize their own true nature as spirit souls. A person who actually realizes himself as pure spirit can never consider material happiness complete, nor can he be enticed by trivial sense gratification, nor by the meager happiness of impersonal liberation, because he is immersed in the most intense ecstasy. Narada is giving some really heavy lessons here. Gopal Kumar, very fortunate. 193. The hierarchy among devotees is only imagined, according to their own forms of service and according to the happiness each devotee derives from his own relationship with the Lord. Commentary. Every pure Vaishnava obtains results suitable to his own devotional attitude. What then is the basis for a hierarchy of greater and lesser devotees? In truth, no such hierarchy exists. It is only imagined as a device for comparing different kinds of devotional service. Each devotional relationship or rasa and its corresponding varieties of pleasure may, for convenience, be measured in terms of relative degrees of perfection in the 9 methods of devotional practice, such as hearing and chanting, and in the various services devotees render to the Lord in Vaikuntha and elsewhere, attending the Lord in person, massaging his feet, dressing his hair, serving him as a doorkeeper. Each devotee relishes the highest possible happiness from his own service to his own worshipable Lord. By presuming a hierarchy of these services, one may also devise a hierarchy of happiness and may accordingly rank devotees. But even if, as some persons hold, such a hierarchy is factual, no pure Vaishnava thinks himself deprived of anything. All the Lord's devotees feel completely satisfied and happy. Now, there's transcendental hierarchy. But 194. Some of these devotees of Vaikuntha are eternal associates of Lord Krishna, and others have come here by his mercy, having gained the privilege to enter. Remember, there's some comments when he's using Krishna directly in the text. How to understand that? Krishnasya kripaya. Commentary. Because the servants of the Supreme Lord are by constitution as purely spiritual as he, one may doubt that there can be any difference between the devotees and the Lord, any distinction between servant and served. In text 194, that's this one, through 199, resolve this doubt. Some residents of Vaikuntha have always been there, like Anantashesh and Garuda. Others, like Bharata Priyavrata and Jain Vijay, have come to Vaikuntha from the material world and have become associates of the Lord's relatively recently, having gained entrance into Vaikuntha after successfully practicing devotional service. 195. Although everyone equally enjoys the bliss of worshiping the Lord, certain differences are conceived. Devotees are considered relative outsiders or insiders, depending, for example, on whether they serve the Lord from afar or from nearby. Commentary. In the opinion of some Vaishnavas, different qualities of devotional service earn their performers different degrees of perfection. Otherwise, in Vaikuntha, there would be no meaningful distinction between the Lord's eternal servants and newly liberated devotees. In this verse, Narada agrees that although the devotees enjoy the ecstasy of worshiping Lord Narayana, there are minor differences in what various devotees achieve in Vaikuntha. Some devotees seem to have more intimate relationships with Lord Narayan than others do, and when the Lord descends to the earth and other material planets, select devotees are privileged to accompany him. The truth is that there are no real differences in devotional achievement, only different individual services. If some Vaishnavas insist on the idea of different degrees of perfection, that idea may be granted, but the differences are insignificant. This is really subtle, and I think it's important. And it's 8:15. I'm going to end here, and we'll continue tomorrow with understanding gradations of devotees. Are they real or not real? I mean, one thing is clear, they're all satisfied. So they're not feeling like I'm not satisfied. There's no envy. I want to be there instead of here. They're where they are because the Lord is reciprocating with their particular attraction for him. And hierarchy, said several times, is imagined. And then we have perfect, more perfect, most perfect. I'm sure they'll get there.